this is exciting and scary. And I acknowledge that because, especially with chat being able to reason, I think chat being able to reason is fascinating and exciting and terrifying all at the same time. Those two emotions exist in this space right now where I'll show people, like, I'll hold up my phone and show them something really cool and fun and amazing that chat can do. And we're like, wow. And then at the same time, it's okay, that's a little freaky.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Swift Start Go, the only podcast where you get to hear your favorite AI hot takes and or stories from some of the coolest people I know. I'm Carolyn Swift Holden, thus Swift Start Go, and today we are going to be interviewing a dear friend of mine. Her name is Paula Skoviera, also known as Princess Paula, as apparently I'm the only one who knows how to pronounce her last name. That's right. We are officially interviewing AI royalty today. Paula is a dynamic AI trainer, speaker, and the founder of Princess Paula Consulting, where she helps businesses harness the power of AI, marketing, and networking with a whole lot of sparkle. So, Paula, my first question for you is, how did you get into AI in the first place? Like, why are we here? How did this become your life?
Right? Because it's like I tripped and fell into AI, and I've always loved technology. Totally technologically. Anyway, I always dated nerds. So I've always loved technology. But when it comes to AI, I had bumped into an individual who was sitting in this AI space, and I got to talking to him and I was like, tell me more. This seems interesting. And as he told me more, I kind of thought to myself, this is something that everyone needs to know about. And I realized that I'm a really good teacher and trainer, and everyone needs to know about AI. So I just thought, okay, how do I package this so that I can explain it to people? And it's just taken off from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so primarily when you're working in the AI space, you're working on training people who have never used AI before, or maybe even like heard of the different tools, right?
It's a little bit, honestly, it's a little bit of everything. So normally what I say is one of the first slides that I have when I'm in front of people is I say, you're one of four people. You either think AI is a type of steak sauce and we listen and we don't judge, totally fine. You might be someone who's tried it once or twice and you don't get what all the hype is about. You could be someone who's using it fairly regularly, or you could be someone who says, I could teach this myself, step aside. So I realize that there's a little bit of everything in the room. What I'm trying to do now when I come into a room is I'll ask people on a scale of 1 to 5, where would they put their comfort level? So this is super helpful because, like, last week I was in front of a group that maybe they were a 1, a -1, a 1, a 2, but other times I'll come into a room where they're, they put themselves as a 3 or a 4. So then I can take it in a different direction when they have more of a comfort level with it.
Yeah. And when you run into people who have like a much lower comfort level, like a 2 or a 1 or a -1, what do you find are the biggest pain points? Like, what are the things that they are most worried about? Is it just that they have never played with it before and they don't know what it is? Or is there specific reasons that they haven't been using the tool?
So good. I'm always willing to acknowledge and call out what's really going on. So I know that there's a lot of reasons why people might be afraid of AI, right? It's either they watch the Hollywood movies where the robots take over and they're scared that the robots take over, to which I always say, they're not going to take over yet. So don't worry about
Not
it.
yet. Not yet, everyone.
Not today. So
Not today.
I'm like, tomorrow could be, but at least for now, not today. There's the ethical stuff, right? And that's a really big piece right now. There's the safety and security. There's the deep fakes, which I often will have to explain to the room. So I understand where they come from. I think some people are just late adapters, like most things. They know what's out there, but they're like, meh, what is the big deal? So it's not until I'm showing them, like, razzle dazzle, this is everything that you can do. And then they go, oh my gosh, I'm not going to sleep tonight because this is amazing. Like, nobody can create something perfect without any issues. And that's what they try to do. They're like, oh, we're going to build this technology. We're going to build these buildings. We're going to make them super efficient and environmentally friendly. But there'll always be something that isn't quite right, or that upsets someone, or that, it's like they're always chasing that one thing, it feels like. And And that's why I like to, when I'm talking to people, kind of going, okay, if we look at the technology and the tool, does the usefulness of this technology outweigh the potential environmental impacts? And I'm not saying it does or it doesn't, but that's where I
Yeah.
kind of look at going, do these environmental issues exist? Yes. But we can't have this without that. So then where do we draw the line? What's more important? Can we change it? Can we affect change? I love those discussions.
I do too. And the energy thing, I think, needs to be maybe not next week's newsletter, but it needs to be one of the newsletters coming up. And I really need to find somebody who knows a thing or two about energy and about the
Yeah.
space. So if anybody knows, please let me know so I can
And I'll never
ask
hide from
more
it.
questions. Yeah.
So people know that if they're going to be in the room, like whether people are bringing up bias, if they're bringing up the environmental, if they're like, there's always points that are brought up, and I just go, "Yep, you're right." And there's also this, like I'll show both sides to everything, and then just say, "You get to decide." Like at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell you what your truth is. You get to decide based on all of the information.
Yeah. Speaking of bias, I have a strong bias, which is that I want to hear a word from our sponsors, as they are here to help us make Swift Start Go even better than ever. So we're going to be right back after the break, and then we'll talk a little bit more about AI bias, and not just the bias that I have for our lovely sponsors, Cirrus North. Thanks, guys. This show has been brought to you by Cirrus North. Does your organization need a better partner for cloud, DevOps, security, and compliance? Cirrus North is a team of software professionals with a passion for cloud solutions, DevOps, automation, Kubernetes, and streamlining complex business problems. They are 100% US based in Minnesota and Chicago, have deep experience supporting mission-critical technology operations in highly regulated environments, and have delivered success for startups and for companies on the Fortune 5. Interested? Reach out to the team at cirrusnorth.io. That's cirrusnorth.io. Thanks, Cirrus North. And we're back. Welcome back to Swift Start Go. I'm your host, Carolyn Swift Holden, and today we have Princess Paula on the line. Thank you for being with us, Princess Paula. I can't tell you how much I've appreciated having you on the show.
I just love following you online. Like when I found you, I get so excited to find other people in this space where it's like someone I can talk to who understands.
Well, especially women. There's so few women who are working in the AI space. I mean, there are some really fantastic ones. Actually, in my most recent newsletter, which is now going to be last week's newsletter, if you're watching this in the following Monday when this episode is supposed to come out, I did include a list of the top 100 women who are working in AI,
Nice.
who like include some of the biggest like executives and stuff working at different AI startups like OpenAI or Anthropic or things like that. But you know, when it comes to living in here in the northern Midwest, there's not necessarily a whole lot of us who are bopping around talking about AI. So I really appreciated finding you too, Paula. But speaking about women and AI definitely has a bias problem, and I know that this is something that you've talked a lot about with your audiences. What how do you explain this to people when you talk about these systems and what biases they have and why and all that jazz?
Oh my gosh, I just love this. So, take a quick step back. So, I have degrees in teaching, specifically as a history teacher. So, I understand bias, right? And even as I'm a Canadian citizen and growing up in high school, I remember we were taught even the difference between our Canadian textbooks and American textbooks, because whole big
Yeah.
segue, we grow up as Canadians. Not that the US won the war against the US and Britain. That's your history. Our history
Mm-hmm.
books say that that England won it, not you
Oh,
guys.
really?
So yeah, so it's all whoever writes history gets to write history. So who has programmed the computers? And there's usually always at least one person in the class that I'm training or in the audience where I start talking about programming these LLMs and they kind of go, what about bias? And I just pause and let everyone sit in that, because who's determining what information is put into these LLMs? Like who's putting that information in? Who's programming it with what? Is it coming from their viewpoint, their vantage point? And that's going to color and what the knowledge, like the information we're going to get back. So I always acknowledge it because they're not wrong. Whoever
Mm.
puts the information in decides what's most important, decides how it's going to respond and answer. They are going to have a bias. And
Yeah.
whether we think so or not, we all have a bias.
Well, and it's also not that like people are intentionally putting it in. So much of it is um, just people are trying to train these LLMs and they're using existing data and they don't realize that, oh, this data really skews in one direction. And so I know when it comes to job hunting, one of the big concerns has been, well, statistically, specific individuals have historically not been hired in specific types of roles. And now we have seen in a handful of cases, or maybe several, I don't know how many cases it's been, but we have seen evidence of different AI systems basing hiring decisions based off of already
Hmm.
existing biases within the system, within the data set, right? And so it's not that the person or the people who are training the LLMs are like, we don't want to hire people like this. It's more that because of the evidence of what are the types of people that this company or companies like it hire,
Hmm.
tends to inform what the AI thinks is a good person for them to hire or not.
Absolutely. And sometimes it could be really subtle where we don't notice it, or gosh, depending on who you are and where you sit in society, you may or may not notice it. But to deny that it's there, because I just believe there's bias in everything, everything there's bias. And sometimes it's a big bias and sometimes it's not really there. And we may or may not bump up against it. But that, again, that's the history teacher in me is like, but there's bias in everything.
Yeah, no, you can't like everything. If you think about like everything that informs your existence and your perspective on the world, like that's a bias, right? Like you have a bias of like I have a bias of thinking that comedians are great because I was a comedian and I really enjoy hanging out with other comedians. Is that a bad bias? Oh no, but it is something that I have in myself where I'm like, oh, I like working with comedians because I
Hmm.
was one. I would love to work with other comedians who maybe break into tech, right? Like that's something that I feel like we have in common, and
Well,
so
you're automatically going to like them. Like if you start talking
exactly.
to someone and they say, I'm a comedian, you're just going to be like, instant like, uh, you
And
know,
that's not necessarily a bad bias,
exactly.
but it is a bias. So yeah, I don't know. I think when I think I'm curious what you think about the different platforms when you think about their biases. I would say it feels like Anthropic takes everything the most seriously, and Claude, they are just like so aggressive about making everything as equitable as possible and like really like buttoned up, don't you think?
Well, but then it's looking at the why, because this is where I'll nerd out sometimes, right? So I'll kind of go, okay, we had OpenAI started, and then some of the folks there were like, we don't, again, I'm very simplifying this, but
Yeah.
they're like, we don't really like what's going on here. We don't think it's ethical, whatnot. We're going to leave and we're going to go start our own. So that's why I can see why Claude is just like, we're going to work doubly hard on making sure that we have reference for this and where is it coming from? And is it, to your point, is it buttoned up? Because that's what they see as most important. We'll call that their bias. They're like, this is what we think is most important. And then even sometimes when I talk about Perplexity and how they're sourcing everything, it's like everybody's coming to it going, here's an LLM, but here's what we think is wrong with it. So we're going to come at ours, making sure this particular topic is our most important and looked at. So yeah, they all end up having a bias from who started it and why.
Yeah. And it's almost like they have entirely different personalities, right? Like
Yes.
Claude is the like really elegant writer nerd who we love. Okay. And
Oh my
then who
gosh.
else? A perplexity is just like always researching,
Okay, I got to be
just like,
careful because I used to make fun of, like, even when I break them down for people, I'm always like, here's OpenAI. Like, there's Chat and Claude, and they're like, one week one is the best, the next week the other ones they're fighting. I'm like, and I used to say, and then here's Google's Gemini, who's like your kid brother, going, guys, can I play too? Like, can I come along? But they've really stepped up their game, and I can't make fun of them as much anymore.
I view Gemini, I don't know, they keep changing, but the bigger perspective that I have on Gemini right now is that OpenAI will not let them um just will not let them win the news cycle. It's
Oh
like
my god!
Gemini has an announcement and they're really proud of it and they're like, "Look, I did really good. Now we're better than OpenAI." And OpenAI is just like, oh, let's put out like a random news cycle thing that's like going to distract people. And so I just saw a headline
I
about,
love that.
I literally just saw a headline where OpenAI is like, oh, hey, we're acquiring it was, I think it was John Levy. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but we're acquiring a hardware startup built by one of the primary designers who worked with Steve Jobs originally at Apple to get into like consumer hardware. And so now everyone's like, oh my God, ChatGPT is going to have hardware.
And Gemini's just over there going, what? What?
And
Why?
Gemini's like, we just had our biggest announcement ever. Please leave us alone, OpenAI. Oh gosh, darn it. And so I
Oh
just
my
think
gosh.
it's they're all like kind of trying to sabotage each other, but I feel like OpenAI is particularly aggressive with
Yes.
Gemini's updates, and it's probably because they see them as their biggest threat.
Well, because
Um,
I always say Google has more money than God. So I'm
they
kind of like,
do.
I was like, Google and
That's
Amazon are
because
going to get
Google
married,
is God.
take over the world, right? So yeah, but they keep coming back going, you do what you want, open an AI. We're just going to throw more money at what we're doing and we're going to win.
They have so much money. Oh my god. And so yeah, no, it's funny because I feel like Google and Gemini got a bad rap early on for like going live with some of their stuff like before they should have. And even the like Google search, I haven't checked the Google search in the last 24 hours, but in the last like 2 weeks, like, you know, the AI results still isn't as good as like the old summaries that they used to have. I
Agreed.
I think it's kind of dumb that they didn't keep the old summaries.
But okay, what do you think about this? Because I really noticed when the Olympics were around last year, because
Mm,
Google seemed to be on every single commercial and like Gemini,
right.
like they were just pushing out Gemini during the Olympics. And I was watching that going, interesting, because they were getting a lot of traction by being out in front of people that way.
Well, and it's also interesting because people, I think people initially were like, oh, Microsoft is going to be the safe option when it comes to AI. But I think that perspective has now shifted to Google and Gemini. Like that's the trend that I'm seeing in the last couple of months, especially. Like my friend who got upset with Google Gemini yesterday, she decided to go with Gemini because she thought it was the safer, less risky option. And then she got really mad, of
Interesting.
course, when it went down, right? So she like basically thought that like Gemini was more responsible. And in some ways I agree with that. Like
Why do you
Gemini,
think that is?
I think it's just that like it's a bigger company and so they are like not encouraged to take as many risks. But also if you think about it, like Google is like the parent in the park and OpenAI is like the bratty teenager being like, I'm better than you, right? Look at me, I can make images. Wee.
Well, and do you think it's
Um,
also the familiarity because we've had
I
Google
think
for
so
so long,
too.
we're so comfortable with them. We're like, well, they're not going to do anything wrong. They're going to look after us.
But it's also the corporates, like they want the safe option, right? They don't necessarily want the most cutting edge option. They want something that's safe. And they view Google as being like very safe. They view Microsoft as being very safe. They view Sam Altman as being a hype man who over exaggerates all of the time. and like and then hopes everyone forgets all of the things that he promised a year ago.
I love that. See, this is why I love talking to someone who's in this space and gets it because this is so different than what I'm doing when I'm just going out and about going, all right, here are some ways you're going to use an LLM.
I know. And Sam Altman is also like
But he's got to sell it. He's got to be able to go out there and try and get investors and sell his product.
Yeah, he's definitely doing everything he can to put OpenAI in the best light, but it's also I don't know. I don't know that I trust him. Does that sound weird? I just
No.
like he just he seems I like love the Anthropic team. Everything I've seen come out from them. I like don't pay for Claude. I only pay for OpenAI, and I'm like I don't know if I trust Sam Altman, but but I do think that Anthropic probably has. I think Anthropic is probably the safest, best, top notch product, and I think it's really funny that corporates aren't jumping on that. But then
I
again, I'm
agree.
not either.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so, like, what's happening? But it's
but
also
it's the
because
name recognition, right? Like chat has
yeah.
just become so like we're using that as it's synonymous with Gen AI.
Well, yeah. Well, if you look at the numbers, I think it's something, it's like 88%. it might be somewhere between 80 and 90% of all startup funding in the AI space goes to OpenAI. It's not even a competition anymore. We were talking about, like, a year or two ago, I had a YouTube show where we were talking about all these different startups and how they are performing and competing against each other. And I was like, wow, is anybody going to be able to catch up with OpenAI? They have like over 50%, wow, of all funding. And it's like, no, they have almost all of the AI funding, period. And on top of that, if you think about it, they are built like structurally they're like so messy, right? So they're a nonprofit, except they have a for-profit branch, except they kind of want to switch everything to being a for-profit. But then Elon Musk is like, I'm gonna sue you because he's mad, and he doesn't like necessarily have a case, but they still need to have good enough lawyers to go up against the richest man in the world. And then like they're trying to figure out, how can we be a for-profit company? Like we need so much money and we need to
Yep.
make more money. And like, so, you know, from just a strictly financial thing, there's like a real possibility that if OpenAI collapses like financially, you know, if they go into like too much debt or like something happens, right, that it could take down it's like the thing is, like, when crypto went down, like all crypto went down, right? So if
Oh,
OpenAI
I
goes
see what you're
down,
saying.
does
They would
all
take
AI go
everyone with
down?
them. Yeah. There's no
Or
way though. Come on.
but if
Let's be
they
honest.
take up 90% of all the finances,
Someone would step in with a company that lucrative or potentially lucrative. Like
I
if they
know.
were in money troubles, there's going to be people going, "Where do I sign? Here's all my money."
I mean, that's the thing though, is they're totally in money trouble. Like they're not making more than they're raising, but they're getting a ton of money from like their raises and whatnot, and they have a lot of potential, but they still haven't quite figured out their financials. So, but like the what's different though is, like, I feel like with crypto, when, you know, SBF and FTX, everything collapsed, whatever, um you know, it really led people to question, well, is crypto like useful at all? And when it comes to AI, I think, I'm pretty sure everybody agrees that AI is very useful. It might be overhyped, but then if it is overhyped, are we going to see like a
Okay.
major backlash?
So this is an example I love talking about at times. Once upon a time in a world long, long ago, when there was first cell phones came out, there was a lovely little cell phone called a Blackberry, and they were the first ones out, and they were the best of the
I
best, and they were
loved
making money
Blackberries.
hand over foot fist, like they
Yep.
were just making all this money. Everyone wanted a Blackberry. It was the phone out there. It was the
It was
only
so
one.
great.
Until one day along came something called the iPhone. And all of a sudden the iPhone came along and BlackBerry went, what? And in the rooms when I talk about this, I always say, anybody in here still using a BlackBerry? But they were the first ones out of the gate, right? The first
Yeah.
ones to have where you could text. They were the first ones to do texting. Now they don't exist. So who's to say? OpenAI right now, to your point, they've got the lion's share of usage and all the things, but if they're not careful, will they go the way of the BlackBerry?
Yeah. And so I think there is a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Anything is possible, guys.
5 years from now, we need to have another follow-up
Oh my
5
God,
years from now to
we
be like,
need to
where
have a
are we
meetup
now?
6 months from now.
Yeah, I'm like going so far out.
You're like 5 years. I'm like 6 months. Let's see if they make it. I mean, 5 years is probably realistic, but I think I wouldn't be surprised. What I think could happen, I don't know that it will, but I think could happen is that OpenAI could potentially, you know, collapse because of just too much problems. There could be a slowdown in AI funding, and that could probably eliminate a few competitors. But I imagine that Anthropic will still be around, Gemini will still be around. Microsoft is just not doing super hot in general, so I could see them fizzling out some of their AI stuff. But that it will level the playing field a lot, and then after like a bit of a downturn, there will be a big crazy race to see who's going to win, and that's when we're going to see whoever's going to be the big one. And maybe it'll be OpenAI if they get, you know, their stuff together after a
Yeah.
big collapse. But I just don't know how
It's fun to watch.
structurally sustainable OpenAI is at this point. I mean, they're so big that it's like they're too big to fail. But what happened to the banks that were too big to fail in 2008? Oh,
Okay, well,
yeah.
what's your thought about this? Because sometimes when you are in the front of the pack and you are kind of the first ones out there doing all the things, you
Yeah.
are who everyone goes after.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone's trying to defeat OpenAI too. So that complicates things.
They
Like,
have to
again,
spend, if you only have so much energy and you're trying to spend your energy developing and innovating plus defending, and that's splitting your resources.
yeah. So I think I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean I'm definitely keeping a close watch on all of this stuff. What's interesting is that I'm not necessarily adjusting how I use AI with all the latest updates. I kind of just gave up. Like there's so many updates where everyone's like, "Oh, now you're supposed to use Grok. Oh, now you're supposed to use Gemini. Oh, now
Okay,
Llama's the best." And I'm like, "I don't care. I
not
don't
only
care."
that, here's what's frustrating. As somebody who's sitting in this teaching training space, I'm already changing my decks every week. Every week I
Every
have to
week.
update it. And sure enough, it never fails. I'm in a room and I go to do something and I'm like, "Oh, nope, this must have just changed in the last 24 hours." So ignore what I just said, because it's that constant. And it's great. I'm really glad that they're updating and innovating and coming up with these things, but golly gosh gee, there's lots happening all
There's
the
so much
time.
happening. And it's just, it's the AI Wild West, right? It is,
Absolutely.
it's just a bit exhausting. And so the way I kind of just treat it is I primarily use ChatGPT. Do I need to switch to Anthropic? Sure. But they need to get better at images and then I can do that.
Yes, or even sometimes their answers I kind of go, really? Really? But
I know. I used up Claude's freebie version in 30 minutes.
oh, I believe that. Well,
And,
and let's talk about the app on the phone. Like
yeah,
I'm always talking to chat. Like we're walking around having conversations all the time.
yeah.
I'm taking pictures. You talked about ways that we use it. Like I'll take a picture of my fridge and say, "What can I make for dinner with what's in my fridge right now?"
Yeah, ChatGPT is teaching me how to garden.
Oh, I love that.
I just ask ChatGPT every day. I'm like, is this a weed? Is this a weed? Is this a weed? It successfully made sure that I did not pull up an entire hydrangea the other day. I was very glad.
This is why I adore you. I literally did the same thing last week where I took a picture of a tree in my yard. I was like, "What's wrong with this tree? What is this? Is it healthy?" And it was like, "Nope. And here's all the things I see. Here's what you need to do." I was like, "You're the best ever. Best
I
ever."
know. It's not always right, but sometimes it is. It was funny because at one point I was like, is this a weed? And it was like, no, it's not a weed. It's obviously this. And I was like, I don't believe that. That's not true. And then I like show the photo to my uncle, who's a big gardener, and he's like, no, ChatGPT was right. That's not a weed. You shouldn't have pulled that. And I was like, oh, dang.
Okay, and back to earlier points of this is why I tell people don't worry about it yet. That like everyone's like, "What if I lose my job? What about this?" I'm like, just calm down. It's not
Yeah.
happening today.
I'm
Maybe next week.
simultaneously,
But
yeah, I'm simultaneously telling people all the time. I'm like, oh, like, listen, AI is not that big of a deal. It's just software, guys. We're all like overexcited about software. And on the other hand, I'm like, everyone's going to lose their jobs.
yeah, I think it's a little bit of both end, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
I always talk about technology and entertainment world because I'm kind of going, when we first had VHS tapes, right? Blockbuster.
Yeah.
I know that movie theaters were like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to go out of business. We're going to lose all our business." Well, we now have a Netflix button in our remote control. We have the technology at the click
Yeah.
of a hand, but we also still have movie theaters. We haven't lost them. So both can exist at the same time. Are there
Yeah.
fewer movie theaters than there used to be? Of course there are, but now there's other jobs. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people get a little worked up. I've had some hate coming at me lately
Oh.
online. And I'm just like,
What about?
um promoting AI, saying that it's a good thing. Like there are some people
Yeah.
that are very anti AI, like
Yeah.
seriously anti. And I just try to say, you know what? I'm here to educate. I'm here to tell people. I did have someone again kind of come after me saying like, "Well, you're telling people to mind the M dash and to hide the fact that it was AI and to rewrite their stuff so it doesn't look like AI." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I'm take it, edit it, make it your own. You don't have to just copy and paste. Don't be lazy."
Yeah. Well, and also like I definitely, as especially someone who's worked in the arts before, and I feel like the arts community, we talked about this when we hung out last time, was so much of the arts community is so stressed out about AI, and I completely understand why. And I've talked about that quite a lot on this podcast in particular. But the quick bullet notes, in case there's anybody new here, are copyright issues for my smarty pants in the audience, environmental concerns, and like AI theft and ethics and things like that, and jobs. So, right. And so I think a lot of the stuff is valid. And I'm definitely somebody who like goes back and forth. Like, I think in general, we've lost a lot of like nuanced conversations just in general. And I think a lot of that has to do to social media. Like, we've lost the ability to say that something is both good and bad. Things in general are not all good or all evil. Like, right. It's not just
Yes.
black and white. Things are gray. And AI is definitely in a gray area. And also, I think a lot of people think that AI is just like one thing, but it's not, right? There are so many people who work in the space. There's so many different types of AI. It's not just generative AI. There's
Mm-hmm.
also machine learning. There's also all different ways that you can program computers to do things that are different than what people expect, that are different from what ChatGPT is, right? And I think the more people understand that, and also, like, as you've talked about in the very beginning of this episode, having the history of
Yes.
understanding how this was developed and why and what strategies were used, I think is so helpful for giving people a better understanding of, oh, this isn't all evil, or oh, this isn't all amazing. Like, I think it's important that people in the AI space talk about the issues and not just about the pros, right?
Yes. And understand that you can't have one without the other. We can't have advancements. We can't have technology moving along. Like, I don't think anyone really wants to give up their microwave or their dishwasher, but something had to change along the way for us to get to where we are. And I've often talked about in my talkie talks, I've often said, when the automobile first came along, farriers, people who did horseshoes on horses, they panicked because they were like, are we going to be out of work if nobody's using horse and buggy anymore and they're all using cars? Well, we still have them today, but we have to see change. We have to have things even get uncomfortable for technology and life to keep moving along. And we often want the technology or the convenience or the ease or whatever it is, but we don't want anything negative. And it just doesn't work like that in life. You don't,
Yeah.
even right now, like I'm on this weight loss journey and I'm trying to lose weight, but I can't lose weight without being hungry. Like, you often can't have something good without something uncomfortable going with it. It just doesn't work that way. But we
Yeah.
want the AI, we want all the cool stuff without the discomfort.
This show has been brought to you by Cirrus North. Does your organization need a better partner for cloud, DevOps, security, and compliance? Cirrus North is a team of software professionals with a passion for cloud solutions, DevOps, automation, Kubernetes, and streamlining complex business problems. They are 100% US based in Minnesota and Chicago, have deep experience supporting mission-critical technology operations in highly regulated environments, and have delivered success for startups and for companies on the Fortune 5. Interested? Reach out to the team at cirrusnorth.io. That's cirrusnorth.io. Thanks, Cirrus North. All right. Well, Princess Paula, we are almost out of time. So I'm going to ask you one question, which is actually two questions, and I hope you don't mind.
I
Okay.
love it.
So my one question that's actually two questions is, what is exciting you most about AI, and what is scaring you most about AI? Please answer in a completely nuanced way that showcases how things are both black and white and gray and not just one or the
I
other.
Okay, I absolutely love this question because there's usually a point when I'm training people where I kind of pause and I go, this is exciting and scary. And I acknowledge that because, especially with chat being able to reason, I think chat being able to reason is fascinating and exciting and terrifying all at the same time. And those two emotions exist in this space right now where I'll show people, like, I'll hold up my phone and show them something really cool and fun and amazing that chat can do. And we're like, wow. And then at the same time, it's okay, that's a little freaky. So just the technology in itself carries those two things with it. Yeah. What was the other question?
What is exciting you most and what is scaring you most?
Oh, yeah.
So,
So it would definitely be the ability to reason that we're
yeah.
at that point.
Exciting. All right. Well, you answered that so much faster than I thought you would. So I'll ask you another question, which is how are you using AI on a daily basis right now? Other than, of course, doing pep talks or telling you how awesome you are. I don't know.
Well, okay, so in classic Gen X form, won't even use Google anymore. So I'll just
Hmm.
carry around chat. And whether it's the end of the day and I'm like, hey, I have 100 calories left, what can I have as a really great low cal chat or snack? Or if I
Hmm.
just need any information, I'm skipping past Google. I'm going straight to chat because I'm going to get just the facts. I'll
Yeah.
use it for everything from planning dates to writing obituaries to doing Google reviews to sometimes when I'm having a sad day and I just need a pick me up and a pep talk to,
Mhm.
you know, like I'm talking to it all the time, like my own little personal counselor assistant. So
Yeah.
it's always with me.
What are you not talking to ChatGPT about? I mean, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but I mean, I think one of the things that people worry about is like privacy and like what you feel comfortable sharing, what you don't feel comfortable sharing. And you just said that you share like a lot of really personal things. So I'm
Hmm.
curious, like, where do you draw the line or where do you tell people to potentially draw the line?
Well, that's really good. And this is again something that I also address is we're being watched all the time. And anyone
Yeah.
that thinks they're not being watched or listened to, you're in denial because if it's
Yeah.
not our devices in our homes that are listening to us, when you're out and about, there are cameras everywhere watching you
Hmm.
all the time. So first people just need to realize you're always being watched and recorded. So I say just live your life in a way that you're not doing anything you'd be embarrassed of or that would put you in jail and you're golden.
Yeah.
So that being said, we do want an element of privacy in our lives. But I mean, I do have my privacy settings on set in chat, but I'm realistic to go, is it really private? Well, I'd like to think it is, but it's probably not.
Yeah, like don't put your social security number in there, guys. We don't.
Right.
But
So
yeah, I
yeah,
don't
there's
know.
really nothing. I mean, from issues that I've had or, employee problems, family issues, like I'll just kind of talk about whatever and I don't know. I guess it's like donating your body to science. You're hoping
Yeah.
that it's for better things.
I know. I don't tell it that much about me, or I like try to keep it. Like it knows a lot about me,
Are
obviously,
you like
but
asking for a friend? Do you do a lot of, hey, Chad, I'm asking for a friend?
I do actually. And you know what's nice about chat? Chat doesn't think that I'm trying to deceive them. But like a human would. But I do frequently to try to see like what it knows about me is I ask it questions like every like couple of weeks I'll be like, what do you know about Carolyn Holden? What do you know about Carolyn Swift Holden? And see what it comes up with because every once in a while the result is a bit surprising and it's interesting to see what it learns or doesn't learn over time. Like right now I think it got over it, but a couple of weeks ago ChatGPT was just like insistent that I'm obsessed with Dala horses, like these colorful Norwegian horses. And so like if you look at some of my posts from like a month or two ago, you'll see that I was like asking it to generate images of like, what do you think my life looks like right now? And it would like put a picture of me like in this office. Like it knew what my office looked like because I took photos of it. And then it would just like on my desk, like put multiple dollar horses on there. And it was because one time I was like, hey, how much money could I make painting dollar horses? Like, is that a job that I could do? And it was mostly, I like coming up with business ideas for fun, but it tends to take my business ideas like extremely seriously. Even when they're silly ones like dollar horses. So now ChatGPT just like associates me with dollar
Okay,
horses.
I love that. Just listening to you right now, I'm thinking this is the classic thing where someone will spend maybe a couple minutes with you and you kind of go, all right, how would you pitch me something? And they're taking like this sliver of information that they know and
Hmm.
creating a persona or trying to sell to you based on that. And I think that's exactly what chat does a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Acts like a big know it all with like one piece of information.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you have $2 horses? This is your entire personality.
Exactly. I will put them everywhere in the room.
You actually, and then at one point it was cute. It was like, oh, you're redecorating your family room? You should paint like your side tables in a color that like with like Swedish patterns because you're such a fan of Dala horses. And I was like, that seems weird. Can you show me what you mean? And it was like, oh no, you should use these like folk patterns. They're like very subtle. And I was like, oh, those are subtle. Maybe I will paint my side tables like Swedish red.
But this is what I love about chat. This is what I love about this side of the hallucinating, where chat's like, why not? Why not? Because it's like that's dumb, chat. That's why not?
Yeah, chat is just like, Carolyn's obsessed with Dala horses and needs all of them to be about her. And I'm like,
that may be all I know about her, but still, that's definitely the main thing.
And then every once in a while, I'm like, you didn't know I was a comedian? What?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like what it decides is like important information is funny. And
I know I've been trying to get chat to help me write a bio for myself, and it's just not hitting. And I'm like, come on, after all this time, you still don't know who I am?
You still don't know me? It's like they know your like psychology profile of like, oh, Princess Paula thinks she's royalty, but she's not, so she must have a really big ego, right? Like it's probably like psychoanalyzing you, but it's like doesn't know the basics.
I know. I don't get it.
It's fine. Yeah, my ChatGPT thinks that I'm obsessed with Dala horses and doesn't know that I was a comedian, but does think that I am obsessed with historic interior design, which is correct. But
I was just going to say, but it's not wrong.
It's not wrong. It also thinks I'm obsessed with gardening, and it's like, I'm not obsessed with gardening. I just have a garden and I don't know what to do with it, and I need help.
That's interesting. I think I'm going to ask chat later today, like, what do you think about me? What do you think I'm like?
Oh yeah, like personality.
And not just the roast, because the roasts were hilarious when
the
we kind of
roasts are very funny. I like the roasts for sure. All right. Well, thank you, Paula, for coming onto the show. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. I'm Carolyn Swift Holden. You can find all of my Swift Start Go shenanigans on Substack or on LinkedIn. I post on there more than anybody has a right to. But if you want to follow Princess Paula over here, Paula, where should they find you?
Well, you can go to princesspaulaconsulting.com, or I'm also on LinkedIn. I am on all the other things. And we also have a podcast, Royally Unhinged, which is on YouTube and all the things, where we talk about all things networking, marketing, and some AI as well.
So if you enjoyed this particularly unhinged podcast episode, I'm sure you will love her royally unhinged show. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching or listening, and we hope you're having a fantastic day. Tune in next week where we're going to be talking, I think, about education. I don't know. I've been so bad about scheduling these. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Happy day. What day is it today? No one knows. No one knows. Bye. This show has been brought to you by Cirrus North. Does your organization need a better partner for cloud, DevOps, security, and compliance? Cirrus North is a team of software professionals with a passion for cloud solutions, DevOps, automation, Kubernetes, and streamlining complex business problems. They are 100% US-based in Minnesota and Chicago, have deep experience supporting mission-critical technology operations in highly regulated environments, and have delivered success for startups and for companies on the Fortune 5. Interested? Reach out to the team at cirrusnorth.io. That's cirrusnorth.io. Thanks, Cirrus North.